Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to read chapters 2 and 3 of the Get Rich Quick Club. Let's begin. A simple solution. I live in Farmington, Maine, which is about 30 miles from Augusta. That's the state capital. It was dreary the day after school let out for the summer. I was bored and lonely. There's a field out back behind our housing development with one big tree in it. I was walking around trying to think of something to do with my summer when I spotted something in the tree. I went to get a better look. As I got closer, I realized the thing in the tree was Rob Honeycutt. He lives a couple of houses over and goes to my school. Rob was in the other 5th grade class. Rob was sitting up in the tree, and sitting next to him was his pet pig, Chester. Not many kids own a pig, but Rob is a little, I guess you would say, unusual. He has wild blonde hair, and I'm not sure he knows what a comb is. "What you doing?" I asked. "Existing," Rob replied. "Chester and I are inhaling air and letting it escape into the atmosphere." "Why are you doing it in a tree?" I asked. "Well, I was thinking about this tree, and one day it might get cut down and made into a fence or a cardboard box or someone's garage. I wanted to enjoy it while it was still alive." "Okay," I said. Maybe unusual isn't the best term to describe Rob. In truth, most kids would think he's a bit of a yo-yo. Sometimes when he says things like that, I think he's putting me on, but I know he isn't. Rob just sees the world differently from other people. He's probably a genius. "Why don't you join us?" Rob suggested. "Chester likes company." I didn't have anything better to do. I found a low branch that I could dig a sneaker into and climbed up on the tree, giving Chester a pat on the top of his head. The pig oinked contentedly. "Are you going to camp this summer?" I asked Rob. "My folks don't believe in camp," he said. I remember that Rob's parents were real back-to-nature types. They say planned activity is an artificial environment and it stifles creativity. "I wish I was going to camp," I said. "I waited the whole year for summer to come, and now I have nothing to do. This is going to be the most boring summer ever." "You know, a person's average life expectancy is less than 80 years, Rob informed me. "That's 80 summers of living. We're already used up 11, more than 1/8 of our lives." I had never looked at it that way. Rob was always thinking of things that made you look at the world in a new way. In this case, it only made me depressed. It reminded me that I would be 12 in a year, and I wasn't even close to making $1 million. "G'day, mates." The voice came from below. Rob and I immediately knew it was Quincy Biddle. Quincy is a girl who moved here from Australia in the middle of 5th grade. "G'day, mates," is the way Australians say hello. Just as an aside, Quincy is going to use a lot of different expressions, and after she uses them, I'll explain what the expression means. "Lovely Arvo," Quincy said. "Mind if I join the chinwag? I had an appointment at the Fang Carpenter to adjust my railroad tracks." Now, what does that actually mean? "Nice afternoon. May I join the conversation? I had my braces adjusted by the orthodontist." Australians speak English, but sometimes it's hard to tell. They use a lot of words that don't exactly make sense in America. Like when Quincy says the phrase "dead horse." She's not talking about a horse that is dead. She means tomato sauce. It was a little weird the first time I went through the lunch line next to her on pizza day. You know how Eskimos have about 50 different words to say snow? Well, Australians have about 50 different words to say stupid. If somebody is stupid, you can call them a drongo. Isn't that a great word? Or you could call them a boofhead or a ning-nong. Here are some other words Quincy taught us to use in place of stupid: Gumby, nit, off, mug, deadhead, dipstick, wombat, dill, dag, and rat bag. You'll be surprised how often this comes in handy in everyday conversation. Rob invited Quincy to join us, and she climbed the tree. Rob, Chester, and I moved over to make room for her. "Any biddies up here?" Quincy asked. "Crepes. I'm Stroppy. I just got off the blower with my crumblies. They live out in Wop Wop, and they must have ear-bashed me for an hour. It seems they got into a bingle and their Toyota is jagged. Now it's not worth a crumpet and they can't flog it. Grandpa's as angry as a frog in a sack." Here's what she actually said. "Any bugs up here? Good grief. I'm in a bad mood. I just got off the phone with my grandparents. They live out in the middle of nowhere, and they must have talked for an hour. It seems they got into an accident and their Toyota is broken. Now it's worthless and they can't sell it. Grandpa is very mad. Man, I could listen to Quincy talk all day. Blimey, Quincy exclaimed. Some ankle biters have lopped over, which means darn, some little kids have arrived. Little kids are ankle biters. I looked down to see two little kids. It was the Bogle twins, Eddie and Teddy. They're 8 and annoying. Eddie was holding a big wooden box in his hand. What you doing in the tree? Teddy asked. Trying to hide from you, gerbils, I replied. Can we climb up? They asked simultaneously. No, Rob, Quincy, and I replied. Chester oinked. They didn't go away. I knew they wouldn't. The Bogle twins never go away. They're like those inflatable punching bags. No matter how many times you knock them down, they always come back for more punishment. What's in the box? I asked Eddie. I'll tell you if you let us up, he said. It's against the law for second graders to climb trees, Rob informed the twins. It is not, Teddy countered. I climb trees all the time. The police haven't caught you yet, I said. Once they do, they'll throw you in jail. I don't want to go to jail, wailed Eddie. Oh, come on up and have a posy, Quincy said, extending her hand to them. Eddie stopped crying immediately, the little faker. A posy is a seat. Okay, we'll let you up, I said. So what's in the box? Eddie opened the box. It was filled with clumpy dust, like when you find if you opened up a vacuum cleaner bag. It's from Mommy's clothes dryer, he explained. She lets me clean that screen, the lint screen. You collect dryer dust? Quincy asked, unbelieving. Sure, Teddy said. Soon we will need a bigger box. Rob, Quincy, and I looked at one another. These Bogles are weird. My grandpa planted this tree, you know, Eddie told us. He throwed a seed into a hole in the ground right here and planted it himself. Is that the fair dimcum? Quincy asked. And she's saying, is that the truth? Rob and I rolled our eyes. We both knew the Bogle twins were compulsive liars who would make up any kind of nutty story that came to their minds. I had already heard that the Bogles' grandpa was the first man on the moon, the inventor of silly putty, and George Washington's photographer. Do you think that's true? Ain't that right, Teddy, about Grandpa planting this tree? Yep. Our grandpa was Johnny Appleseed. Rob and I snickered. We could have told the twins that the tree wasn't an apple tree. We could have told them that Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon. And we could have told them that photography wasn't invented until way after George Washington was dead. But that would have spoiled the fun. Listening to the Bogle boys tell their tall tales was just about as entertaining as anything on TV. And somehow it helped us forget that we have 2 months of summer ahead of us with nothing to do. You sprogs are a cock, Quincy chuckled, which means you little kids are funny. What do you want to do? I asked when we had tired of teasing the clueless Bogles. I don't know, Rob says. What do you want to do? We could go to the flicks, Quincy said, or the movies. I don't have any money, I muttered. Bowling, Rob suggested. That costs money too, I reminded him. Why don't we go to the playground? Teddy Bogle suggested. Going to the playground doesn't cost anything. Going to the playground is no fun, I informed him. If it was fun, it would cost money. Anything fun costs money. What a depressing thought. Money was the thing I wanted more than anything, and I didn't have any of it. I had spent my birthday money, and Christmas wasn't for months. This was a serious problem. Do you know what makes the world go round? I asked the group. The gravitational pull of the sun, Rob guessed. No, I replied. What? Guess. Wind? Guessed Quincy. Oink. Oink, Chester the pig. A giant hamster? Guessed Teddy. Running on a treadmill? No, I told them. It's money. Money makes the world go round. They all looked at me. Money can't buy world peace, Rob said. I turned to him. Who needs world peace when you can buy a piece of the world? I got a piggy bank at home, Eddie Bogle announced. How much money do you have in it? I asked. None, he replied. All I have is the piggy bank. I told you Eddie was annoying. Come on, blokes, Quincy said. Pitch your kick. Which means, come on, guys, open up your wallets. We emptied our pockets. I had a dime. Rob had a nickel, 2 pennies, and a half a pack of Lifesavers. So a dime, a nickel, and 2 pennies so far is 17 cents and a half a pack of Lifesavers. The twins each had a penny that their mother had given them for good luck. Well, that's 19 cents. I haven't a brass razoo, Quincy said, pulling out what she called a zack, which is some Australian coin that isn't worth much in Australia and isn't worth anything over here. Together we didn't even have enough money to buy a pack of gum. This is just shrapnel, Quincy moaned, counting up the change. We can't even buy an icy pole with this. She's saying this is just small change. We can't even buy a popsicle with it. We need to make some real money, I told the group. Me and Eddie got $10 a month in allowance, Teddy said. Allowance? I laughed. That's chicken feed. You know what you can buy for $10? A bag of horse manure. To be honest, I had no idea how much a bag of horse manure costs, but it was the first thing that came to my mind. $10 for a bag of horse poop? Quincy marveled. Does the horse get to keep any of that? Rob asked. It's only fair. Why would anyone buy horse manure? Asked Quincy. It's used for fertilizer, I explained. I thought horse manure was free, Quincy said. Free? Rob twisted up his face as if he smelled it. Somebody who has a lot of horse manure should pay you to take it away. That's gross, exclaimed the Bogle twins. I was sorry I even brought up horse manure in the first place. My point is, I tried to explain, $10 isn't real money. So what's real money? Teddy asked. $100, I said. 1,000, 100,000, $1 million. Lots of zeros. That's real money. How are we going to get that? Teddy asked. We could rob a bank, Eddie suggested. Illegal, dangerous, and immoral, Rob responded. We could flog some cookies, said Quincy. Nah, too boring. Flog cookies means sell them. We could sell our blood, I said. What? Everybody asked. You know, sell our blood to a blood bank? Who's going to buy blood? Teddy asked. They use it in hospitals, Drongo, Quincy explained, for transfusions. My uncle got transfused, Eddie said. He had to move to Chicago. Your uncle got transferred, Ning Nong, I noted. I wonder what costs more, Rob said. Blood or horse manure? It would be pretty incredible if the blood was cheaper. I am not selling my blood, Teddy insisted. I'll die without it. You don't flog all your blood, boofhead, Quincy said with a laugh. You just flog a little, which means you just use a little. I'm not flogging any of my blood, Teddy insisted, wrapping his arms around himself protectively. I got it, I said, snapping my fingers. I know a way we can make money. They all looked at me. It's simple, I said. We'll start our own company. Okay, chapter 3. The Get Rich Quick Club. It was so obvious. Why hadn't I thought of it earlier? Starting your own company was the American way. Anybody who ever got rich did it by starting their own company. So if we started our own company, we could get rich just like all those other rich people. That was the way I figured it. My mom started her own company a few years ago. It didn't seem so hard. Wait a minute, Rob said. Kids don't start companies. Why not? I replied. Is there some law that says a group of kids can't start a company? I think it would be gross, Quincy said, which means cool. My Uncle Donald started a company, Eddie announced. It's called McDonald's. Oh, hush up. I wasn't in the mood to listen to Eddie's stories. The wheels were turning in my head. There are a lot of things that had to be done. Yeah, let's start a company, Teddy said. Bloody ouch, Quincy agreed, which means yeah. They all sat there for a few seconds in silence until Rob piped up. How do you start a company? Well, the first thing you need is a name, I informed them all. Take Kodak, for instance. Do you know how they got the name Kodak? Doesn't Kodak mean camera in Swedish or something? Rob asked. Nah, Kodak doesn't mean anything, I said. I read about it in a book. The guy who started Kodak liked the letter K. He just made up the word Kodak. That must have been a real Kodak moment, Rob said. I like the letter W, Eddie told us. My favorite letter is X, said Teddy. Nobody cares what letters you sprogs like, I snapped. Maybe we can make a name out of our names. Bob suggested like the Rob Gina Quincy Club, or Gina Rob Quincy Club, I said, or Quincy Rob Gina, said Quincy. What about us? Eddie whined. We want our names in there too. That name is too long already, I told the twins. What about initials, Rob said. We could call it the GRQ for Gina, Rob, and Quincy. I thought about that. GRQ? It had a ring to it, like IBM or CNN. Then something occurred to me. You know, I told the others, GRQ stands for something else besides Gina, Rob, and Quincy. What? They all looked at me expectantly. Get rich quick, I said, and that's how we named the Get Rich Quick Club. That's the end of chapter 3. Maybe the next time we'll find out what their company is actually going to do. Have a great day. Goodbye.